reality. And we have a Palestinian who recites, and a backup is Jordanian, and everybody's happy. And what is the problem? Because I would want to remind you, you will enter a workforce that sometimes tend to be a bit racist. There's not one single person in this room or anywhere in the world that has ever selected the family that they were born into. Please raise your hand if you have. Anybody? Any takers?
What was the question?
Yeah. Please raise your hand if you selected the family that you were born into.
Hard question.
It's a very simple question. It's an extremely simple question. Or please raise your hand if you selected the race you were born into, or the ethnic background. And please raise your hand if you select your action to define you. That is the bottom line. So when you say things about the MSA, when you say things about the masajid, please, 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 and I'm not saying this group of people here, but the group of people that don't show up because of XYZ excuse of race, or I don't want to see the people who are there because they happen to be from a particular clan or clique, put that aside and let's get the real work happen. And some of the excuses could also be, well, it's the, this is the $64,000 pound elephant in the room. Well, that's the only time I can spend with my friend. Some people will say, like, that's the only time, and I'm not saying it's pertaining to this group of people. Hashakum wallah. Wallahi hashakum doesn't apply. But I realize that one of the major issues that is the youth are inflicted with on campus is the intergender relationship. That's the only time where everybody from the MSA is in their meetings. So I could sit in the cafeteria with my friend, wink, wink, and nobody watches. How nice. How many people really heard that? I'm judged. Or seen it? Come on. I'm a geezer and I've seen it. I just came through just now. I've seen it. It's very true. It's very true. Let us not be shy of a problem that really exists. And I say this to those brothers, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them back to the fold of wisdom. That we are all inflicted by this human nature. Every single one of us, alhamdulillah, men are attracted to women and women are attracted to men. And unless there is a real serious marriage relationship that is taking place, it stops right there. Right there. There's absolutely no way that you need to discuss the weather in China in common hours. That doesn't interest you at all. Well, how nice are her clothes? Can she spell her address for the 10th millionth time? Or how much can we text each other? That's really a dangerous slope that we need to pay a great deal of attention, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, and I will just spare you the Arabic and we'll go directly into the translation of English. Tell the believing men and women to lower their gaze. Lower their gaze. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, what would be translated in the common language today, let you not be scanners. Those body scanners that we have now at the airport that are imposed upon us because of the 25th December, let you not be scanners. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the sequence of things more than anybody else. First you see, then you smile, then you talk, and the rest is history. This is the first time you heard this? Yeah. Everyone is giving me like, we have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, I urge you, brothers and sisters, because I want to advise you and myself of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves for men who are, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the hadith of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam is so beautiful. There are 7 categories of people that are shaded when there is no shade except the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And some hadith that say that day of judgment, the sun is about a mile away. And in Arabic there is mil. Mil sometimes could be measured in a mile that we know, this distance that is finite. And some explanation, they say the mil, and for the Arab women they would understand this, is what you take and you put kuhl in your eye. That is mil. It's about this. And on that day, people, according to their deeds, the sweat, some of them will reach their ankles, some of them their waistline, some of them they will reach all the way to their chin, and some others will be swimming in sweat. And there is absolutely no way of any shade on that day, except whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them shades. Amongst the 7 categories, there are people whom they love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I urge you to love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a true, absolute sense of love. Not the February 14th type of love, but the true sense of love. Not that there's anything wrong with February 14th when it's appropriate. No, that's totally, perfectly acceptable. And I'm one to say on camera, on record, I love my wife. That's perfectly acceptable, and that's totally recommended, and that's what we want. We want, when you get married, to love your wife. And the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, not too shy to say that he loved his wife, he said, who do you love the most? And what did he answer? Anybody? Come on, you should know. Sisters? Anybody? Aisha. He said Aisha. He said, I love her the most. Sometimes when we tell each other, like, do you love your wife? I can't tell you. Why? They're gonna jump you if you go to nowhere. You love your wife, you're gonna jump you. But going back to the 7 people who will be shaded by his shade when there is no shade except his. A man who has been attracted by the beauty of a very wealthy woman. And she asked him, and what did he do? He said, no, I fear Allah. No, I fear Allah. If we want the true business with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those are the litmus tests that we need to put forward. When somebody tells you, like, of extreme beauty, I mean, we're not talking about, we're talking 1 to 10, 12. He said, no, I fear Allah. And wealth. As did Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. The story of Yusuf happens to be the longest story in the Quran. Explicit, with the sequence, this happened, and then